Hello, it's me again. This time I'm not wearing a hoodie for once, and I'm instead wearing a old man jumper. Woo! So, today on Myriad of Monsters, our least popular series, but still one of my favourite ones to record, so I'm gonna keep doing it. We are going to be talking about one of my favourite little guy monsters, if not the best little guy monster in the universe, which is the Kobold. I really like using them, but I despise them. If I am a player and I meet them, I want to kick them and boot them very far. But when I'm a DM, I just love running them. They're hilarious. The concept of them is they're probably, other than the commoner, maybe the weakest humanoid. So to start off with, that's already a good setup for them. And they have some awful stats. We'll get into that in a minute. Kobolds are little cute dragon people. They can basically look like any sort of little 2-3 foot version of a bipedal dragon. Often very skinny. That's kind of the aesthetic of them. I like that aesthetic. Generally, everything presents them as red. They don't have to be red, I think. It doesn't really say anywhere that they have red scales, so you can go wild with that. You can make them freaking blue, green. It says here that specifically they worship evil dragons as demigods, so I would imagine you wouldn't really find any of the metallic dragon variants of these creatures around. I haven't ran them like that. They don't live very long, and they're very annoying. And yeah, they're very fun to throw at an early level party or have a late level encounter with like one, or maybe a horde of them if you want to run a horde of kobolds. D&D is kind of modelled where if you've got any more than 10 creatures as a DM, you're going to start getting a little bit... Ugh. So I wouldn't recommend doing that. However, they do have strength in numbers, and they are kind of perfect for your first dungeon, which we'll also talk about. RuneSmith did a great video where he made a Kobold dungeon, and I'm stealing a little bit of his advice to give to you guys because I'm a plagiarist. And also, I just really like the RuneSmith, and his points he made were good. Go check out that video for a more in-depth description on how to use them in like a dungeon setting, or I think he might have even talked about it in general. I couldn't fully tell you. So kobolds want to like serve a dragon, an evil dragon, and like hail them as their overlord. They don't have to be in that setting. They want to be in that setting. They don't have to be. For example, in Icewind Dale, there are the Icewind Kobolds who, more often than not, are walking around civilization looking for a dragon to worship, and there aren't really many around except the white ones who like to be lonely, so they're a little bit annoyed about it. So you might encounter a dungeon full of kobolds and nothing else, because that's where they're staying until they find a cool dragon, and they're dumb enough to think, hey, a dragon will just walk in here and ask for a bunch of minions, right? We'll say yes. That's not normally how that happens. Apparently, when they age a lot, like they can get up to 100, and they could be like a great worm, as the monster manual calls it, but they're gonna die before then. They need to accept that. So that's why most of them look like little young boys, because that's about as far in life as they're ever gonna get. Sad times. They're literally weaker than a regular person in a lot of aspects, so it kind of makes sense. They're very crafty though. They can build tunnels and make a bunch of little annoying traps, which is really where the kobolds start to shine. Practical traps that use the environment to their advantage. If there's a steep incline and they're at the top of it, they're pushing a frickin' fiery boulder down there, and then they're bolting it. If there's a place where they can hang from the top of a ceiling, they're going to drop nets down. Stuff like that. I think that's some pretty fun stuff. They can do even more complex things like tripwires and trapdoors and stuff like that. So definitely get a little creative with that if you're planning to use them as a DM. Apparently they also worship a god. It's called Kurtulmak, who served as Tiamat's vassal, which is cool. I guess they kind of aspire to be the vassal of their own dragon, which kind of plays into their motives. And Gollaglee played a big old trick on him, which is the gnome deity, so they really hate gnomes. If there's a gnome there, they're gonna frickin' stab the shit out of them. Apparently a few kobolds can also be flying kobolds. They have a stat block for this as well, where they can get rings, be a little stronger, and be the Chad of all kobold kind, because they can fly like their dragon fathers and stuff. And all the kobolds are very annoyed. So, let's talk some stats, shall we? Because there are quite a few different kobold stat blocks. The monster manual gives us 2, and I believe, I'm not sure if it's Volos or Mordenkainen's, but they expand on that. So, regular Kobold. I'm not really going to tell you about all the features, just some things that I find important / funny to bring up. So, their highest stat is Dexterity with a 15, and then there's nothing above a 9. They have a -1 at least to everything else, Strength and Wisdom -2. They have Dark Vision. They can speak Common and Draconic, which is fun, but they're probably not going to be able to speak Common well. Whenever I play a Kobold, they normally don't really know that many words of Common. They have the Sunlight Sensitivity trait, which makes sense since they basically live underground most of the time. If a Kobold's been out for like 8 years in the sunlight, then they've probably not got this trait anymore. Basically gives them a bunch of disadvantages while they're in sunlight. Probably the best feature and the most fun to use as a DM, you can get really crafty with this, is Pack Tactics. Where if there's another ally within 5 feet of you, you get advantage on attack rolls against someone, or even if someone's next to a creature, similar to like the setup of Sneak Attack, you get advantage on it. It's pretty cool. They also have a dagger and a sling. The Winged Kobold, pretty similar in terms of stats, however their dex is higher, because they got wings. Same features, except they can drop rocks, and they have a flying speed equal to their movement speed. That's cool. It's an extra little fun utility thing, because their dropped rocks are probably the most powerful thing they have. That's a D6 +3 bludgeoning damage. That's decent for a Kobold. You could saw them over like air bomb planes and just launch them down. So, let's start with the Kobold Dragon Shield from Volo's Guide to Monsters. These are what is known as a Chad Kobold, because they actually grew a pair of balls, got some strength and con, and started not being scared of things, and also picked up a shield. I like this a lot. They're like the big goons of the Kobolds. They could be used as maybe like, this guy's the final boss because he's cool. They're just better in every regard. They're like a Kobold, but good. They get some pretty neat features, like they can end fear or paralyzed on allies at the end of their turn if they're also affected by it. They get Pack Tactics and Sunlight Sensitivity as normal. They get a Spear, but they have a multi-attack to do it twice. They also have 44 hit points and 15 AC. That's better than a Bugbear, basically, just with a little less damage. They also get a resistance to damage based on their draconic origin from the 5 chromatic dragons. I think that's really neat, in all honesty. Definitely use this as either like a boss, or I have used it before. They were kind of like the main guards of a large sleeping chamber full of kobolds that promptly got absolutely fireballed to shit. And they all died, because they couldn't save from that. Except the Kobold Dragon Shields. Next up, we have the Kobold Inventor, which is the best Kobold. I said the other one was the best. This one's the best. They're not that good, but they're the best. Kobold Inventors have regular Kobold stats, pretty much. They got slightly better con, so that they can take a hit or 2 more, and an extra hit dice or 2. But you play it due to their Weapon Invention chart, where they get to use one of the following 8 options. You can roll a d8 or choose one. And they only get 1 a day of each. They can just hurl acid. They have Alchemist Fire. They have a basket of centipedes. They got a green slime pot, a rock grub pot. Rock grubs are fucking lethal. They're so lethal. There is a scorpion on a stick, which is their main like attack thingy. They can also poison someone with some poison damage. Not actually give them the status. There's skunk in a cage, where they get to, poison people with, you know what a skunk breath does. Skunk fart even, whatever they do. And then a wasp nest in a bag. They can just chuck one of those out a turn and cause absolute chaos. Just chuck rock grubs and centipedes and all that around the field, and just hope that they don't get hit. My party actually fought a Kobold Inventor after they had succeeded a dex save on Fireball and just managed to live because the dude rolled very low for his damage. And the Kobold Inventor had a pet skunk that the party called, I think he called it Jimmy, I'm not sure. But they had that skunk for a while. It was funny. I like that one a lot. They just play around with stuff. Their intelligence isn't that much better than a normal kobold. And finally, the Kobold Scale Sorcerer, which is a sorcerer kobold with good charisma and constitution and everything suddenly except strength and wisdom. They're still normal. They get more hit points. They get 15 AC, because they get the, like, 13 plus Dex ability from the Draconic bloodline thing. They also get sorcery points, apparently. It wants you to manage sorcery points. I would maybe ignore that if I was running this and just use the spells that they get, honestly. Managing sorcery points and the freaking spells that this character gets is not worth it, in my opinion. Unless it's, like, a lone encounter, then hell yeah, go mad with the sorcery points. Oh, I guess, to be fair, that's pretty cool. They can just spend all 3 and, like, give someone disadvantage. Yeah, I think that would be an acceptable thing in comparison. They also get Firebolt, Mage Hand, Mending, Poison Spray, Charm Person, Chromatic Orb, Expeditious Retreat, and Scorching Ray. This list makes sense mostly. It's almost all just chaotic damage dealing. That's fun. And honestly should be just like the main priority of a regular, you know, spellcaster enemy. Unless you want to start getting creative with it. I've done that before, it's killed my players. No, still do that, but like, just having big blast damage is reliable. In any case, that's all of the regular kobolds that you'll be able to find, I believe. There's definitely more out there, but that's a lot of kobold, that's a lot of lore, and for that, thank you very much for watching. I hope that you'll use kobolds in your game now that I've mentioned it, and not just instantly go to goblins. Goblins are cool. I've seen too many of them. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We have a Discord that you can go check out in the description. We have a Curse of Strahd stream that runs Fridays. No, not Fridays. Saturdays, 7 PM GMT. If you want to go check that out, we get we play with some of the people that I play with on the regular, and we have a grand old time. Yeah, I hope to see you in the next one.